I wanted to talk a little bit about who is really benefiting from this administration's climate agenda and from these draconian electric vehicle mandates. So, Mr. Turk, you've already alluded to this. I know you know the answer to these questions. Currently, one nation accounts for 60% of the world's electric vehicle production. That nation is
China.
Yeah. One nation accounts for 76% of the world's lithium ion battery production. That nation is
China.
Yet your administration, this president's administration, the mandates that you put in place require that 2/3 of our new vehicle sales in just the next 8 years, 2/3 of them be electric vehicles.
Welcome back. Today, Senator Josh Hawley absolutely obliterates a Biden administration official over the administration's climate agenda and how it is fueling China's dominance in the electric vehicle market. If you are sick of seeing China get stronger while we are left footing the bill, you're going to want to hear this. Let's dive in and see how Hawley holds nothing back as he questions the logic behind our government's electric vehicle push. Spoiler alert, it is not looking good for the Biden team.
Your policies are driving us and our supply chains into the hands of our greatest geostrategic enemy, enriching them, enriching their government, while forcing Americans to pay for electric vehicles that on average cost $7,000 more on average than a traditional vehicle, are more expensive to repair and insure, require more frequent replacements of everything from tires to component parts. So, Mr. Turk, why is it good for the American worker that we force our supply chains to a country that's our greatest rival and adversary? And why is it good for the American consumer?
So this is exactly why we're using all the tools that Congress gave us to diversify our supply chains, from the mining piece and especially the processing piece, which is where China really has a stranglehold. So we're making significant progress on lithium, on graphite, you name it, the tools that you all have given us to diversify those supply chains and make sure that we're getting the benefits of that. Our U.S. workers are getting the benefits of that. Citizens in St. Louis, I mentioned in my opening statement, some exciting investments that are going on in St. Louis. We want U.S. Workers to benefit from this supply chain and this revolution. And China is absolutely competing. China is going whole hog on EVs and the full supply chain of it. And they're going to compete and outcompete unless we're playing and pushing back and competing with them, which is what we're doing.
Here's what I don't understand then. Why is it, if that is the case, why is it that you are interpreting the administration's climate law, so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which I think, frankly, is bad enough on its own, but you're reinterpreting it now to allow the tax credits to flow to Chinese entities. So now U.S. tax dollars are literally subsidizing Chinese battery makers. Why would we want to do that? Why would we want to not only give our adversary our supply chains and our jobs, but pay them to take them from us? Why does that make any sense?
So I would argue, and certainly want to turn to my Deputy Secretary at Treasury, we are not doing that.
Why on earth would we give China our supply chain, our jobs, and then pay them to take it all from us? I mean, seriously. If you are not seeing the problem with this, we need to have a serious conversation. The Biden administration is basically rolling out the red carpet for China and handing them our tax dollars. It is almost like they are trying to get us hooked on China-made EVs just to keep the wheels turning for their communist regime. This is beyond reckless. Think about it. China is not playing in the market. They're winning the game while we're distracted.
How are you not?
The fact that with the 30D tax credit, only 13 models qualify at this point. Now, we hope more diversification happens and more models qualify for that tax credit is a good data point that we take this very seriously, and we want to have these jobs in the U.S. But let me
wait. I just want to stay with you, Mr. Turk, just because my time is so limited, and this is an important part. And the chairman's brought this up, and I'm glad that he has. This is really, really important. The Inflation Reduction Act, which I did not vote for, but nevertheless, the Inflation Reduction Act said clearly that China, if you are a foreign entity of concern, you don't, which includes China, you don't get the taxpayer subsidy. You don't get the 30D subsidy. You don't get the tax break. And yet your rule allows Chinese companies to get the tax break. It loosens up the restrictions. So now we are subsidizing our rivals. I just don't understand. The chairman's asked you about this repeatedly. I don't understand why we would pay Chinese companies to outcompete us.
So I would strongly disagree with that. I spent a lot of time working with the team, and we worked hand in hand with our Treasury colleagues on the FEOC, the Foreign Entity of Concern, the FEOC standards, and happy to go through the three prongs of that in particular in terms of what our proposal is on the table.
Well, that's the problem, right? Is that the law, which again I didn't support, but the law says just no. It says no. And then you come back and say, It's what we lawyers like to call a multi-factor balancing test, which is usually what courts do when they want to get their way. So it's like, oh, well, let's complicate it. We've got all of these different things. And the effect of it is, this has been widely reported. This isn't my opinion. Everybody understands that what it does is it allows Chinese companies, so long as they're not set up within mainland China, but owned and controlled by China, they can now get the tax credit. I just don't understand why we would use our tax money to pay the Chinese to make these vehicles.
So we're not. Only 13 models, again, have qualified for that 30D tax credit. A lot of companies right now, automakers, are scrambling and they're working urgently to make sure that they don't have that.
If your rule had no effect, why would you change it? Why wouldn't you just leave the text of the IRA in place? Why wouldn't you the flat bar?
All of this is implementing the legislation that's been passed. And happy, again, to get into the details. Certainly if
Last thing I've got, because my time's expired. I know other senators are waiting to ask questions, but this is important, just about the effect on American workers. Just looking at the news reporting on this, if Ford CEO says that EVs are going to require 40% less labor to produce than traditional cars, as production is shifting to the United States, this labor on, for instance, batteries, EV batteries, is increasingly being done in factories that are co-owned at least by foreign entities, and the wages for workers who are usually not unionized are substantially less than the wages for workers in traditional cars. Now, you mentioned my state. In Wentzville, Missouri, for example, we have almost 4,000 workers in a GM plant there. That's just one plant in just one area of my state. Believe me, I'll take all the jobs you can give me, but I don't want those 3,000 workers to lose their jobs and to have another couple hundred created in some other state in a factory co-owned by a foreign company making half the wages. And that seems to be the trade-off that you're offering to American workers. That doesn't seem like a good trade-off to me.
Josh Hawley calls out the administration's hypocritical approach and does not let up on the absurdity of funding our biggest rival, China. If we are going to make electric vehicles the future of transportation, we better make sure America's actually leading the charge, not China. This is exactly why we need leaders who put our country's interests first. What do you think about the Biden administration's handling of China and electric vehicles? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more bold and unapologetic content.